Hello, 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 people of the internet. Ian Elter, the Freedom Astrologer, once again here with another video. And today I have a pretty interesting, I would call it a more advanced, more deeper topic for you. And it's called the soul suffering, or you can call it also the placement or places where the soul suffers. And I'm going to discuss the placement of the nodes with you, the lunar nodes. In modern astrology, they're mostly known as South Node and North Node. In Vedic astrology, they're more known as Ketu and Rahu. And this is we need to understand a couple of things before I can explain the gist of this thing to make it more understandable. I will kind of explain a couple of easier concepts if possible. Now, the thing with the nodes and this specific topic is we need to understand the houses. We need to understand that each sign has a specific house where they feel most comfortable in, and we can call it almost like their home house, basically. Now, when you already done some astrology, know some astrology, learned some astrology, you mostly know this, but it's still important to understand when we're explaining this concept. And now in this specific example that I have for you here, I have the houses completely opposite. So meaning the chart starts with the sign of Libra here in the first house where number 1 is, and on the opposite side is Aries. Now usually when we're talking about home houses or signs in their home houses, let's put it that way, or the natural essence of the house, we're talking about still the chart needs to start with Aries. So basically the first house has the qualities of Aries, second house has the qualities of Taurus, third house has the qualities of Gemini, Cancer, so on and so forth, with the order of the zodiac. So just start with the first house: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So this is, let's say, the natural order of the houses, or the natural qualities of the houses. Now in a few moments you're going to understand why I'm so adamant in explaining this, or kind of repeating myself. This is important to understand in a lot of, or you should know this in different, or for different areas, not only the nodes, but for what we're talking about today. This is really, really important. Now let's go into the nodes. Now the nodes are here. The North Node is here. The South Node is always in the opposite house. Remember this, please, if you're new to astrology. All the time, the nodes are in opposite houses of each other. They're always in a constant opposition. Now, in this specific example, we have them in the 10th house and in the 4th house. Before I go into that, actually, I wanted to a little bit talk about what the nodes actually are, so this video would make more sense. Now, the nodes have a lot of meaning, obviously, and they've been in astrology for a long time, and the movement and the qualities that they bring have been observed for a really long time. And in different schools of our astrology, different schools of thought, there are different ways of approaching them. I'm going to now convey some of the explanation of the nodes to you that is based on experience in the modern world, based on looking at charts and working with people and listening to their life stories and experiences. So this is what I do. I usually, I do learn the meanings and experiences of past astrologers, but I do like to test these things out in the real world to see if they really work or not, and how they work if they're not working the way that the ancients said, for example. Because guys, the modern societies or human society is constantly changing, and the way these things affect us and affect our societies, in my view, changing a bit as well. Now the nodes have quite intense energies, and what do I mean by the intense energies is the North Node. Let's start with the North Node. And the North Node here in the example, I'm just going to use my mouse. North Node, in very simple terms, is what we're in this lifetime that we're experiencing, what we're meant to learn more, what we're let's say meant to go towards more. And at times, especially younger, there's a certain kind of, usually, I've experienced this and observed this, that there's a usually kind of like resistance in going towards that area of life. But in the grand scheme of things, this is the area of life by house and by sign. You can then see what the house and sign means, and then you can derive the meaning where you should move towards. This is the area of life what you need to master in this lifetime, what you need to go towards in this lifetime, and to kind of learn about more, to really get deeply immersed, I would say, in that area. And if you do that, and if you start to learn that area, quicker jumps in your material life are possible. Now, in Vedic astrology, I think it's important to mention here that in Vedic astrology, maybe I should actually I'll discuss the South Node first, and then we'll bring in the Vedic astrology concepts as well. Now, the South Node, always on the opposite side, this talks about our past lives a lot. This talks about what we have achieved in our previous lifetimes, what kind of mastery we have achieved, what kind of mastery we have learned, what kind of skills we have brought into this lifetime. And one of the things to understand with the South Node is, and this is literally what the next thing I'm about to say is the thing that I've experienced so much in my kind of practice as an astrologer, as a I would call myself a scientist as well in this field, because you go out and you test and you see if it works, and if it doesn't, you do something else. Well, the South Node is the side where we have these I would call them almost enormous gifts, and this very strong inclination to go towards. So very, very often what happens is in our younger years, especially before 20, especially before 30, 25, especially in these years, even 35, we still move towards more this South Node because it's familiar, it's what we know, it's what it comes naturally. These things come very naturally, almost on their own to us into our lives. Now, the problem here becomes, and this is what I want to kind of convey to you, is the problem becomes that in this lifetime we're meant to go towards this other area. So the south node kind of pulls us towards it, but we are meant to learn this, and we're meant to experience more of this area. Now, if people really get immersed in that south node, the opposite side, what we already have achieved, then this I've seen literally repeat countless times. Usually life brings some sort of obstacle, some sort of crisis, some sort of problem into their lives, so they start to focus more on this north node or Rahu side of life in this lifetime. Now, in Vedic astrology, a lot of Vedic astrologers, say you should go more towards this, and I've seen this more towards the south node. In my mind and experience, this is not true. So I wouldn't recommend going completely immersing yourself in that south node area. But what I've seen it work is in real life practices is taking that south node energy and using it in service of something greater than yourself, and using it in your career work that should be at least in some shape or form to do with the north node, where you're using the north node energy. It's kind of bringing the south node skills and things and come naturally to us, bringing them to the other side, to the opposite side, and using them there. Now, I hope this makes sense. I also wrote an article about this, I think a long time ago. I'll post the link in the description. You can read that if you need more information about the nodes. There's also a lot of information on the internet on this, but I wanted to give you this because this is what I've seen, what I've observed, what I've experienced myself, what I've seen in people's lives close to me, with clients, with people I've been working with, and it's always the same pattern. Well, maybe not always, but like very high percentage, people usually go towards the south node first, then some crisis or problem happens and need to go to the north node. Okay, now we established kind of like what the nodes are, and that every house has their quality with in association with the sign. So remember, first house Aries, second Taurus, Gemini, so on and so forth. And now remember, in our birth charts, when a person is born, during that moment, that birth chart is formed according to the time. And now these let's say areas become the houses, and each house has their own sign as well, and they're not always Aries, Taurus, the chart doesn't always start with Aries, so you can have the ascendant or the start of the chart as a Libra or as a Scorpio, so this means everything moves, everything changes in the chart. And this means also that the signs go into different houses. So one of the reasons why I brought this backwards example to you is to show you that you can also have Aries in the sign, or in the house of Libra, or in the 7th house. So this brings in a new, let's say, level to all of this. And why is this important with the nodes and the soul suffering? Now, I'm going to get into this bigger topic we're in, and this is the soul suffering. When you might be asking, like, what is the soul suffering? Why is the soul suffering, and how is it associated with the nodes? And this is why I brought this example. I have a couple of more examples to drive this point home. But if we know now that the natural house of Cancer is the 4th house, and the natural house of Capricorn that we see here in the 4th house is the 10th house, we can now see that the nodes are in a way opposite. So what does this mean? Now, in this, let's say, example, we can see that the North Node is in the 10th house or in the natural house of Capricorn. But in this case, in this person's life, the sign of Capricorn is in the 4th house. So this is where the kind of confusion comes into the person's life. So how does this confusion manifest in a person's life? So at the same time, they're meant to go towards the Cancer areas, because this is where the North Node is, by sign. And by house, they're meant to go towards the 10th house, which is career, Cancer, home, family, real estate. Now, this is where the conundrum or the problems or the soul suffering, how I call it, can come to the person, because at the same time, the South Node, what we're meant to kind of not be so focused on this lifetime, what we're meant to kind of like take, maybe even at times, kind of leave behind. But the leaving behind of the South Node is, I don't think it's never the right answer, but it's more like we don't focus so much on this area. Now hopefully you can probably understand now where the conundrum starts to come in, because Capricorn is the natural sign of the 10th house, which is again career, outward achievement, organization, kind of the pillars of society, the foundations of society. But again, in a person's personal natal chart, it's a lot to do with career. So it's a weird conundrum that this person has. On one hand, it's like they have already achieved, the Capricorn energy, because the South Node is in Capricorn. So they've achieved higher positions in previous lifetimes, higher kind of social standing, and maybe focused on work and career in previous lifetimes. But now the weirdness or the soul suffering comes in on the other side. Still, it's in the 10th house. Still, they're meant to go towards career achievement. And now, where it becomes even more confusing for the person is they've also achieved or experienced the family life, because 4th house is the family, home environment, family nurtured home environment life. And with the South Node here, they've also experienced this. And again, what makes it even more confusing, now the North Node is in the sign of Cancer. So hopefully this starts making sense to you. I know it's kind of confusing at first. When it first hit me, I was like, whoa. But in this case, this person still needs to go towards career, material achievement, obviously in the chart, because we can see that the North Node is in the 10th house. So there's a huge desire to achieve in the material realm and let's say world. But now they do need to kind of do it in a Cancer-y way, and maybe not in the most Capricornian way, which is very organized, very kind of diligent, just step by step, almost like I would call it a very, very cold cut approach to achievement is Capricorn. But now they also need to combine that, let's say, achievement in the material world with the Cancerian energy, which is nurturing, which is taking care of things, which is actually also real estate, land stewardship, the oceans, taking care of the oceans, even we can say, at times the military and the police, because it's, protecting something. Cancer is to protect. So this person needs to use that energy in their lives with, kind of, it's always the solution when they have this, when a person has this kind of conundrum in their charts, is to find balance. So they need to find balance between their family life, Cancer, 4th house, and career. So they kind of need to do both. and also need to use that kind of nurturing, caring energy in mixture with that maybe colder achievement Capricorn, I'm organized, I just do everything by the book kind of energy, and use that all a mixture in balance in their career life, and somehow find a balance still in their family home life and create that as well. So when you hear that, you can understand why, hopefully you can understand why I call it the soul suffering. It's kind of like the person can experience, I need to go here, I need to experience this, I need to feel this, I need to experience this, I'm pulled towards this constantly, but I need to go here as well. So there's constantly like push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. I need to be here, I need to be there. And this is one of the reasons why I call these configurations the soul suffering. It is a difficult one to balance and maneuver through, but it is possible. And the best thing I've seen is finding a balance in some shape or form, using a mixture of these energies in these places that I mentioned, like in the example. And you literally, you can't go too much in, let's say, too much in one direction. The other side will still pull you towards it. So the balance, the best thing I've seen with this is using that balance to balance these areas wherever it is for you. And now I'm going to show you some more examples just to kind of drive this point home and see. So here we can see again, this weird kind of conundrum this person has. The natural house of Aquarius is the 11th house. So this person has North Node here, but he also has Leo at the sign of Leo here. And now the opposite side, where always remember the opposite side is where the South Node is. And it's in the natural house of Leo. Remember, something we already done. So it's a mixture, again, a balancing act between these areas, between children, between creative projects, between being individual, being very, very individual, being very autonomous, and at the same time going towards groups. So the best bet here for this person actually is to be kind of like going towards groups and social circles, but finding their autonomy and finding their independence and finding their leadership within these groups of bigger groups of people, let's say online groups of people. It can be obviously offline, some sort of organizations, bigger organizations that have these social or economic goals. And this person definitely has to balance between balance a lot between their children, the 5th house, and fun, and going towards material achievement, dreams and social goals and economic goals in the 11th house. So they need to constantly find that balance. And it's kind of like, I want to achieve, I want to have fun, I want to achieve my dreams, get my dreams done, but I also want to have children. So I need to balance it, constantly balance, and they need to bring their creative side into those groups as well. So hopefully it starts to make sense. This will start to make what did I want to? This one is this one is also, this one is, as you can see, this is one 2021 example. We have a weird one with again the natural house, or the natural house, the natural sign of the 9th house is Sagittarius. That's right now, it's in the 3rd house, and the natural sign of the 3rd house, which is Gemini usually, is in the 9th, and now the nodes are there. So again, this person is meant to go towards these 9th house areas, which is international matters, higher learning, higher wisdom, and university degrees. but they need to make this practical. They need to make it usable in the everyday life. It can't be too higher minded, because they already done this very, very higher minded, spiritual wisdom kind of thing. What they can do to balance this is actually bring those third house everyday matters into these higher meaning places. So what I mean by this is they can bring higher wisdom into everyday practical, left brain matters, and combine them and make it useful in the real world. So hopefully this makes sense. But obviously these people are pulled towards, local environments, international environments. So like, do I stay here in this small group of people, or I go to these bigger kind of foreign adventurers? They're constantly they need to actually balance these placements. And yeah, hopefully this makes sense. And I want to just kind of reaffirm the balance side. The balance is really important here, and using these areas, if you have the mixture of these kind of push and pull dynamics, and you feel that in your daily life, you really need to start kind of putting them together, mixing them up, and finding balance there, not to go too extreme to either side. Now, what I want to also talk to you about, guys, is especially difficult, this, let's say, soul suffering. If you have, let's say, opposite sides in your birth chart, strong opposites in your birth chart. So what I mean by opposites is, there's always, whenever you have a Libra, here, always the opposite side is Aries. Or with every sign, there's always an opposite sign to that sign. And when you have usually sun, moon, or most importantly the ascendant in these opposite sides, then it can be even trickier by transit when the nodes move. And what do I mean by this is, when you have, let's say you have sun in Leo, like in this example, and we'll put the moon, we'll put in the 5th house, in the sign of Aquarius. So this means in your personal birth chart, you have this kind of already a push and pull between opposite energies constantly. And now it's also important to understand that by transit, the nodes that we've been discussing here move or switch signs approximately every 1.5 years. So this means every 1.5 years, these energies change by transits, and our kind of like momentary focus for that 1.5 years will switch as well. Important to understand that it doesn't mean that the natal chart influences don't affect us anymore. These will affect us throughout our lives, but by transits, 1.5 years, you will feel when the nodes move. And now we're getting into the Meta Zodiac, which is, I think I've done videos on it, but you can also, I think, look on the internet for these. But the Meta Zodiac, basically what it is when these strong influences have in our charts, like the sun, moon, or ascendant, they can also be used as, or in this case, sun and moon, they can also be used as the start of a meta natal chart. So usually we start to look at the natal chart from the ascendant, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But in the Meta Zodiac, we start to look or start the chart from the sun, in this case in the 11th house, in Leo, 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. Or in our example that we used, the moon was in Aquarius, so we would start the chart in Aquarius, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you have these, you can see that every time the nodes move, you're again in a conundrum. So you're again pushed and pulled towards different areas. Because for the Leo sun, you will have the nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth, the fifth and the 11th house. The north node will be in the 11th house, and the south node will be in the 5th house. But for the Aquarius side of you, 1, 2, you will have now the opposite. The north node will be in the 5th, and the south node will be in the 11th house, and the signs again will be mixed. So every time these switches happen, again, you will feel the push and pull. Where should I go? What should I do? Like, again, this kind of like, what should I focus on more? Because the sun and the moon are very important. Of course, if you have the ascendant, again, it brings in different kind of qualities. But it's important to understand that every time, if you have these in your natal chart, these opposites, sun, moon, for example, in opposite signs, every time the nodes move, you will also have to feel that push and pull with the movement. So hopefully this makes sense to you. I know it's a bit of a difficult topic, but the best part is to find balance within these matters, and learning this balance can sometimes take time. First and foremost, obviously, especially when a year and a half transit is still quite a long time. So you get a chance to learn to balance these areas, learn to balance these energies, and this is kind of like the best way to use this. Because where does the soul suffering actually come in is like, there's a constant feeling of, I need to do this, I need to go towards it. Like in the example that we used, sun in Leo and moon in Aquarius. The Aquarius side of you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, will always feel more towards these 5th house matters. The Leo side of you will always want to move towards these 11th house areas and disregard the 5th house. The Aquarius, exactly the opposite. It wants to go towards the 5th house and disregard the 11th house. So basically what you need to do is find the balance between those 11th house, long-term goals, dreams and material economic gains, and working with them, and your children, fun, creative side, and you need to bring them together in some shape or form. At times balance them, give more time to one, give less time to other, and then bring it back. And this is but the soul suffering part of this is like, it can, when you don't know this and you're in the mix of everyday life, and you kind of pull towards this and pull towards that, and I want to do this and I also want to do that, and I don't know what to do exactly. This is where the frustration can come in. Is like, I feel like I really want to do this, but at the same time something really is telling me I need to do this, and I'm like always asked to do this. So you need to bring yourself back and kind of like slow it down basically, and find a balance between these areas. So pretty long video, but hopefully this makes sense to you. Hopefully I explained it as clearly as possible. Please, if something was kind of confusing, you don't understand anything here, please let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to do another video if this one was maybe too difficult, or if there's some details you need to get clear on. Just like and subscribe. A lot of links in the description box if you want to get the reading with me. If you want to get I also do webinars. They're pre-recorded, some of them. All good stuff. Ian Altsor, the Freedom Astrologer, out. Thank you for listening, watching, and see you soon in the next videos.